The courtroom on Terminus 7 was carved from black volcanic stone, a place designed to crush hope. Dr. Elena Reeves stood in the center, her hands bound with energy cuffs that hummed softly in the silence. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall, with gray-streaked hair pulled back in a simple bun. She looked more like someone's grandmother than a criminal. Around her, the judges sat elevated on their stone benches. There were 12 of them, representing different alien species. The Kryn judge in the center had purple scales and cold yellow eyes that never blinked. To his left sat a Vextari with too many arms. To his right, a crystalline being that reflected the harsh lights of the chamber. Elena had been their prisoner for 8 months. 8 months of interrogations, of sleeping on cold metal floors, of eating food that tasted like ash. 8 months of asking for evidence, for a fair trial, for someone to listen. No one had listened. The court has reached its decision, the Kryn judge announced. His voice echoed through the chamber like grinding rocks. Dr. Elena Reeves, you have been found guilty of bioterrorism against the Kryn Empire. 1,400 million souls perished in the plague you unleashed. The sentence is death by execution. Elena closed her eyes. She had expected this. The trial had been a performance, nothing more. They needed someone to blame, and she had been convenient. A human. An outsider. Someone who had seen too much while treating the sick in Kryn hospitals. I didn't do this, she said quietly. I tried to help your people. I tried to save them. The judge slammed his hand on the bench. Silence. The evidence is clear. But there was no evidence. Elena knew it. The judges knew it. Everyone in that cold stone room knew it. Truth had died long before she entered this courtroom. 3 billion light-years away, Commander Marcus Reeves watched the live broadcast from the bridge of his battlecruiser, the Resolute. His hands gripped the railing so hard that the metal groaned under the pressure. His jaw was clenched tight enough to crack teeth. Sir, his second officer said carefully, Earth Command has sent another message. They order you to stand down. They say any interference will be considered an act of war. Marcus said nothing. His eyes never left the screen. He watched as guards led his mother from the courtroom. She looked so small between the armored aliens. So fragile. But she walked with her head high, her back straight. The execution platform was outside, exposed to the thin atmosphere of Terminus 7. Thousands of aliens had gathered to watch. Some cheered. Some were silent. The broadcast was being sent to every corner of Coalition space. A message. A warning. They placed a hood over Elena's head. She didn't fight. She didn't scream. Marcus knew she wouldn't. His mother had always been brave. Please, sir, his officer whispered. Give the order. We can be there in 40 seconds. We can stop this. Marcus wanted to. Every cell in his body screamed to give that order. He had 500 soldiers on this ship. He had enough firepower to level that entire prison world. He could save her. But he would start a war. Earth would be expelled from the Coalition. Humanity would stand alone against 47 alien species. Millions would die. The transmission crackled. Through some glitch in the system, Elena's final words reached him directly. Marcus, if you're listening, stay strong. Show them who we are. Don't let anger make you someone you're not. The platform dropped. Marcus watched his mother die. The bridge was completely silent. Every officer, every crew member stood frozen. They all knew Marcus Reeves. They had followed him through hell and back. They had seen him face armies without flinching. But they had never seen this. He turned away from the screen. His face was blank, empty of all emotion. When he spoke, his voice was quiet and cold as deep space. Get me everything. Every file. Every communication. Every piece of data related to this case. Sir? My mother was a healer. She spent her life saving people. Marcus walked toward his quarters. Someone is going to explain to me how a healer became a mass murderer. And when I find out who's responsible. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Marcus spent 6 weeks doing what he did best. Hunting. He did not sleep much anymore. His quarters on the Resolute were dark except for the glow of data screens. Files covered every surface. Communications logs. Medical records. Security footage. Financial transactions. He studied them all with the same focus he once used to plan military campaigns. His crew worried about him. They brought him food that he barely touched. They suggested he take leave, see a counselor, go home to Earth. He ignored them all. There was only the investigation. Only the search for truth. Lieutenant Sarah Chin was his intelligence officer. She had worked with Marcus for 7 years and knew him better than most. She found the first real clue on day 43. "Sir, you need to see this," she said, entering his quarters at 3 in the morning. Her hands shook slightly as she handed him a data pad. I cracked the encrypted files from the Kryn medical database. The ones they said were destroyed in the plague. Marcus took the pad. His eyes scanned the information quickly. Then slower. Then he read it again. The plague had not started in the civilian district where his mother worked. It started in a government research facility. 3 months before the outbreak, Kryn scientists had been experimenting with modified viruses. The same virus that killed 1 billion Kryn. "There's more," Shin said. She pulled up another file. "Your mother's personal logs." She discovered the research facility during her humanitarian work. She reported it to Kryn authorities. 2 weeks later, the plague was released. 2 days after that, she was arrested. Marcus set down the pad very carefully. His hands were steady but his eyes burned with something dark and cold. "They killed their own people," he said quietly. "They released a bioweapon on their own civilians. Then they blamed my mother to cover it up. It gets worse, sir." Chin looked sick. "I found communications between Kryn officials and the Coalition High Council. They knew. Earth Command sent them evidence of your mother's innocence. The Coalition received it before the trial. They ignored it." The room was silent for a long moment. "They all knew," Marcus finally said. "And they killed her anyway." He stood and walked to the window. Outside, stars stretched endlessly in all directions. Somewhere out there, his mother's body had been buried in an unmarked grave on a prison world. A good woman. A healer. Murdered for political convenience. "Compile everything," he ordered. "Every file. Every communication. Every piece of evidence. Then we're going to Earth Command." 3 days later, Marcus stood in front of Admiral Harrison and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He presented everything. The bioweapon research. The cover-up. The communications proving the Coalition knew the truth. He watched their faces as they reviewed the evidence. He saw anger. Then worry. Then fear. "This is damning," Admiral Harrison said heavily. "If we release this, it could tear the Coalition apart." "Good," Marcus replied. "Commander, I understand your anger. But we must think about the bigger picture. Humanity is still new to the Coalition. We're outnumbered. If we push this, if we demand justice, the Kryn Empire might convince other species to expel us. Or worse." Marcus stared at the Admiral. "So we do nothing? We let them get away with murdering innocent people? With murdering my mother? We pursue diplomatic channels. We negotiate. No." Marcus's voice cut through the room like a blade. "I didn't risk everything to gather this evidence so you could hide it in a drawer." Harrison's face hardened. "That's an order, Commander. You will not release this information. You will not take any action. You are to return to your ship and await further instructions." Marcus looked at each person in the room. These were people he had served under for 15 years. People he had bled for. Protected. Trusted. "Then I resign my commission, effective immediately." The room erupted in protests. Harrison stood, slamming his hand on the table. "Marcus, think about what you're doing. If you go rogue, we can't protect you. The Coalition will hunt you. Earth will be forced to disavow you." Marcus was already walking toward the door. He stopped and looked back once. "My mother taught me that one person standing up for what's right matters more than 1,000 people staying silent. I'm done being silent." He left the room and never looked back. Behind him, alarms began to sound. Someone had just stolen the most advanced warship in the human fleet. The Vindication launched from Earth orbit with 200 loyal soldiers who chose justice over orders. They disappeared into the darkness between stars and the hunt began. The Kryn research station orbited a dead moon in the Outer Reach sector. It was supposed to be secret. Buried in classified files. Protected by military-grade shields and a garrison of 300 soldiers. Marcus found it in 11 days. The Vindication dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. No alarms. No warnings. The station's sensors never detected them. Human stealth technology was something the Coalition had underestimated. They would learn that lesson many times in the coming months. "All teams ready, sir," Lieutenant Chin reported from the tactical station. "We go on your word." Marcus studied the station through the view screen. Somewhere inside that structure were the scientists who created the plague. The people who murdered 1 billion Kryn citizens and blamed his mother. "Remember the mission," he said to his crew. "We need evidence and we need prisoners. Minimal casualties. We're not murderers. We're not like them." "Yes, sir." 12 assault pods launched from the Vindication. They hit the station's docking bays before anyone could react. Marcus led the first team through the breach, his rifle ready. His soldiers moved like shadows, fast and silent. The Kryn guards never stood a chance. Human soldiers trained differently than coalition forces. They adapted. They improvised. They fought like they had something to prove. Within 20 minutes, the station was secured. 6 guards dead. 23 wounded. Everyone else surrendered. In war, those were merciful numbers. Marcus found what he was looking for in the main laboratory. Dr. Zexthar, the head researcher, was trying to delete files when Marcus's team burst through the door. The Kryn scientist was tall and thin with silver scales and too many fingers that clicked nervously against the console. "Step away," Marcus ordered. Zexthar looked at him with wide eyes. "You're the human, Reeves. The one whose mother." "I said step away." Chen and her team downloaded everything from the computers while Marcus watched Zexthar. The scientist kept glancing at the door like he was thinking about running. "Don't," Marcus said quietly. "I'm faster than you." "You're making a mistake," Zexthar said. His voice shook. "The coalition will destroy you for this. You're one ship. One crew. You cannot win." Marcus stepped closer. "My mother was one woman. One unarmed scientist. And your government was so afraid of what she knew that they killed 1 billion of your own people to silence her. So tell me, Doctor, who should I be afraid of?" Zexthar said nothing. "Got everything, sir," Chen announced. "Files, recordings, research data. It's all here. Proof they engineered the plague. Proof they released it deliberately. Proof of the cover-up." "Good. Bring the doctor. He's coming with us." They left the station exactly 31 minutes after they arrived. Before the coalition fleet could respond, the Vindication was gone, vanished into the vastness of space. Marcus broadcast everything that night. Every file. Every recording. Every piece of evidence. He sent it to news networks across coalition space. To governments. To civilian populations. To anyone who would listen. The galaxy watched in shock as the truth exploded across their screens. The Kryn government had murdered their own people. The coalition had helped cover it up. An innocent woman had died for their lies. Protests began on 17 worlds within 48 hours. The coalition response was immediate and furious. They declared Marcus a terrorist. They sent task forces to hunt him down. 5 ships. Then 10. Then 20. Marcus evaded them all. He hit another facility. Then another. Each raid was surgical and precise. Each time he captured more conspirators and gathered more evidence. Each time he released everything to the public. The coalition had never faced an enemy like this. Marcus fought with human creativity and human stubbornness. He struck where they were weakest. He disappeared before they could respond. He turned their size against them, making the massive coalition fleet look slow and clumsy. On Earth, people watched the broadcasts in silence. Some called Marcus a hero. Others called him a criminal. The government condemned his actions publicly while secretly many military officers cheered in private. 6 weeks into the hunt, Marcus broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. His face appeared on billions of screens. He looked tired, but his voice was steady and strong. "My name is Commander Marcus Reeves. I'm not a terrorist. I'm not a murderer. I am a son seeking justice for his mother. The coalition made a choice to protect corruption instead of truth. They chose politics over righteousness. I am showing them what happens when you awaken humanity's sense of justice. We don't forgive. We don't forget. And we never, ever stop." The transmission ended. The hunt continued. And slowly, carefully, the galaxy began to change. 4 months after his mother's execution, Marcus did the impossible. He penetrated Kryn Prime's planetary defenses and landed in the capital city. The planet was supposed to be impregnable. 3 orbital defense stations. Hundreds of patrol ships. Thousands of ground troops. The heart of the Kryn Empire, protected by centuries of military might. Marcus walked through the front door of the High Chancellor's palace with 50 soldiers. The assault was broadcast live across the galaxy. Marcus made sure of that. He wanted everyone to see. Wanted them to watch as one human squad dismantled the security of the most powerful species in the coalition. High Chancellor Vree was in his office when Marcus found him. The Kryn leader was ancient, his purple scales faded to gray, but his yellow eyes still burned with arrogance. He sat behind a desk carved from a single piece of emerald crystal, surrounded by guards. "Kill him," Vree ordered calmly. The guards raised their weapons. Marcus's soldiers were faster. The firefight lasted 7 seconds. When it ended, all 12 guards were down and not one human had fallen. Marcus walked through the smoke and stopped in front of the desk. He aimed his rifle at Vria's head. "You murdered my mother?" he said simply. Vri smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Your mother was a convenient scapegoat. Nothing personal, human. Just politics. 1 billion of your own people died. Acceptable losses. The research had to be protected. Your mother discovered too much." Vri leaned back in his chair like he was discussing the weather. "What will you do now, Commander? Kill me? Make yourself the monster they say you are?" Marcus stared at him for a long moment. His finger rested on the trigger. One squeeze. One bullet. Justice delivered. But he heard his mother's voice in his head. Her last words. "Stay strong. Show them who we are." "No," Marcus said. He lowered his weapon. "You're going to stand trial. A real one this time." Within the hour, Marcus had Vri in chains aboard the Vindication. The galaxy watched as he broadcast a trial from his ship. He presented every piece of evidence. Every file. Every recording. Every testimony from the scientists they had captured. Vri sat silent through it all. He offered no defense. No explanation. He simply stared at Marcus with cold hatred. "The evidence is clear," Marcus announced to the billions watching. High Chancellor Vri ordered the creation of a bioweapon. He ordered its release on his own people. He orchestrated the murder of an innocent woman to cover his crimes. "I am submitting all evidence to the Galactic Court and demanding a legitimate trial." But before the transmission ended, alarms screamed throughout the ship. "Sir, we've got problems," Shin called from the bridge. "Coalition fleet just dropped out of FTL. 200 ships. They're surrounding us." Marcus walked to the view screen. The fleet formed a wall of metal and weapons in every direction. Enough firepower to vaporize his ship 1,000 times over. The communication channel crackled to life. A Vextari admiral appeared on the screen, all arms and anger. "Commander Reeves, you are surrounded. Release the High Chancellor immediately and surrender your ship. This is your only warning." Marcus was about to respond when another fleet appeared. Ships bearing the blue and white colors of Earth. 50 vessels led by Admiral Harrison himself. Harrison's face appeared on another screen. "Marcus, you're not alone. Earth stands with you. We should have stood with you from the beginning." The Vextari admiral's expression darkened. "Admiral Harrison, you are interfering with coalition justice. Stand down or what?" Harrison interrupted. "You'll attack us? Go ahead. But understand this. Humanity is done watching innocent people die for your political games." Then something remarkable happened. Ships began breaking formation from the coalition fleet. First 1, then 5, then 20. Vessels from different species, turning their weapons away from Marcus and toward their own command ships. A Zephyr captain's voice echoed across all channels. "We stand with the human. We demand truth. We demand justice." More ships joined. More species. The coalition fleet began to fracture before everyone's eyes. In his cell, Vri watched the screens with growing horror. His carefully constructed empire of lies was collapsing around him. Marcus stood on his bridge, surrounded by soldiers who had sacrificed everything to follow him, watching as 23 different species chose justice over corruption. "Contact the Galactic Court," he said quietly. "Tell them we're bringing in the prisoners. All of them. It's time for real justice." The trial lasted 6 months. It was held on Coalition Central, broadcast to every corner of known space. No closed doors. No hidden evidence. No political games. The galaxy watched as the truth was laid bare under the lights of justice. High Chancellor Vri sat in the defendant's chair with 47 co-conspirators. Scientists, politicians, military officers, coalition officials who knew the truth and chose silence. All of them facing judgment. Marcus testified for 3 days. He presented every file, every recording, every piece of evidence his crew had gathered. He spoke calmly and clearly, letting the facts speak for themselves. On the final day, the judges returned their verdict. Guilty on all counts. Genocide, conspiracy, judicial murder, crimes against sapient beings. Vri showed no emotion as the sentence was read. Life imprisonment on a maximum security world. No parole. No appeals. He would die in a cell, forgotten by history. But Marcus felt no satisfaction. Victory tasted like ash in his mouth. His mother was still gone. 1 billion Kryn were still dead. Justice could not bring them back. The coalition underwent massive changes after the trial. New laws were written. Independent courts were established. Due process became a protected right for all species. Political executions were abolished. They called them the Reeves Reforms. Marcus was pardoned by both Earth and the Coalition for his actions. They offered him medals, promotions, a return to military service with honors. He declined everything. "I didn't do this for glory," he told Admiral Harrison. "I did it because it was right." Instead, Marcus created the Elena Reeves Foundation for Interstellar Justice, an organization dedicated to protecting the innocent and preventing future miscarriages of justice. His 200 loyal soldiers returned to civilian life as heroes, though most joined the Foundation in various roles. Lieutenant Chin became the Foundation's Director of Investigations. She was good at finding truth in darkness. She would make sure no one else's mother died for political convenience. 2 years after the trial, a monument was unveiled on Coalition Central. It stood 50 feet tall, carved from white marble that gleamed in the sunlight. At its base was a statue of Dr. Elena Reeves, her hands extended in healing. Her face was kind. Her eyes looked toward the stars. Inscribed beneath were her final words, "Stay strong. Show them who we are." Representatives from 47 species attended the ceremony. Many brought flowers. Some brought notes of apology. All came to pay respects to a woman they had let die. Marcus stood before the monument in his civilian clothes. He was thinner now, his hair touched with gray despite being only 38 years old. The weight of what he had done, what he had sacrificed, showed in the lines around his eyes. A young Kryn approached him hesitantly. She was small, barely an adult, with bright purple scales and nervous movements. "Commander Reeves?" she asked quietly. "I wanted to thank you. My parents died in the plague. For 2 years I thought your mother killed them. I hated humans. I hated you. But now I know the truth. Your mother tried to save them. She died trying to save my people." Marcus looked at her for a long moment. Then he did something he had not done in 2 years. He smiled. It was small and sad, but it was real. "She would have liked knowing that," he said. "My mother always said that truth matters more than comfort, even when truth hurts." The girl nodded and walked away. Marcus turned back to the monument. So many people had come to pay respects. Species that had once called him a terrorist now called him a hero. Politicians who condemned him now praised his courage. But Marcus knew the truth. He was not a hero. He was just a son who refused to let his mother's death be meaningless. He placed his hand on the cool marble of the monument. "I did what you taught me, Mom," he whispered. "I showed them who we are. Humans don't accept injustice. We don't stay silent. We don't give up." Above him, ships from 100 worlds crossed the sky. The Coalition was changing, growing, learning. It would never be perfect. Injustice would still exist. Corruption would still hide in shadows. But now there were people watching. People who refused to look away. People who understood that one person standing for what's right could change everything. Elena Reeves had taught the galaxy that lesson through her compassion and sacrifice. Marcus Reeves had taught them through his relentless pursuit of truth. Together they had shown the stars what humanity meant. And the galaxy would never forget.